Well, here we are again with another Red Glasses Talks, and we're going to continue our conversation about disciple making. Now, the last time I had a good buddy, John Gillespie, and he shared a few great thoughts on disciple making. Today, I'm going to have another buddy with me, Mike Santiago, and he goes by Michael Santiago, and we actually saw him down here on the street, and we asked him to come up just to share a few thoughts. I'm just kidding. But Michael works with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, FCA. How many years have you worked with FCA?
14.
14 years. He's got a wonderful wife, 2 great boys, and they just got back from Disney having a blast there. But we're talking about disciple making, and I want to review again the passage in Matthew 28 where Jesus says in verse 19, "Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations." And I like to always translate that, go and keep on going, make disciples who make disciples who make disciples who make disciples. And so that is meant for all believers of all time. It's not a gift for a select few. So, and then there's another passage I didn't read last time, and it comes from 2 Timothy 2:2, which says this, "You then," Paul says to Timothy, "you then, my son, be strong in the grace that is in Christ Jesus." Verse 2, "And the things you've heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrust." And the word entrust, by the way, is a banking term, which means make a deposit. Entrust, make a deposit to reliable men who will also be qualified to teach others. So, Michael, I just want to ask you a couple of questions today and get you to respond. But the first little question I thought of was, what does disciple making mean to you? Because there's a lot of confusion out there what that means. What would you succinctly say that is?
Yeah, succinctly, walking in a relationship with Jesus, reading and knowing his life, how did he handle life scenarios, and then imparting that to other people, other men who say, hey, I want to walk the way Jesus walked. I need someone to teach me. So disciple making is a guy saying, I want to be discipled, and then I'm willing to help disciple others.
And that's the key. And that's, like we said last week, that reproductive part is the part that I see in churches and the ministries around the country, Michael, that's really missing, the reproductive part. I'm getting you ready to do this with somebody else. You're getting them ready to do it with somebody else. You're starting over with somebody new. Another question, how did you prepare for this whole task of disciple making?
Yeah. Had to be, one, very intentional. We're city guys.
Yep.
And many of you listening to this are city guys. It's easy for our schedule to overwhelm us. So making time to make disciples, to be discipled, that's priority one, right?
Yeah.
You got to start there.
Yeah, it's interesting when I go to churches around the country and train people that often what I'll do is put on the board, I say, well, tell me all the activities you do in your church, and we'll list them out. Some of them have 50 or 60 things, events, projects, programs that they do. So I said, where's disciple making? Well, it might be in there somewhere. But my belief is, biblically speaking, disciple making is the overarching strategy of the ministry. And yet you very seldom find that in churches in America. So how are you personally now implementing this whole thing of disciple making?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So obviously, as I mentioned earlier, it's got to start with me.
Yeah.
Making sure, being intentional about surrounding myself with godly men who are walking with Jesus to disciple me. And I continue to learn this even after extended time in ministry. If I'm pursuing men of God to disciple me, it empowers, it equips me to better serve the men I'm trying to reach. I've got something to offer because I've taken time to receive what it is God would speak to me through godly men.
And I think that, to me, points out a critical characteristic of a person that wants to make disciples is you've got to be willing to be teachable. And a lot of times that's a struggle for a lot of men and women, to be teachable, be humble enough to let others build into your life and to learn from others and be teachable. My final question would be, what would you say to challenge our viewers in terms of their involvement in disciple making?
Absolutely. So I would say number one, and you've referenced this already, is be teachable. Got to be teachable so that you can go on and instruct. Be available. Availability's a big deal, as we've already referenced. And I think the third piece is just strategic in saying, hey, you know what? It's not on the other guy to make disciples. Man, it's on me. When your role at business, at home, in your neighborhood, on your street, Jesus made it real clear. He didn't say the other guy and this guy. He said us.
Yeah.
We're to be very much on point, very much on mission.
Yeah, often what I think is you point your finger at somebody else, say, you ought to do it. There are three fingers pointing back at me. Well, how about that? You think about that.